Welcome to your Surgery Connect training. Surgery Connect is a voice over internet protocol system based on cloud telephony, which will mean from the front end, your practice will have no line capacity issues. Even if 100 patients were to call at once, every single one of them is answered by the system. Nobody gets the engaged tone, and then they'll all go into the queue that's built specifically for your particular practice. Within the queue, the patients get their queue position so they know how many people have got to be answered before they are. There's also the option of adding in patient callback, which is our automated callback system, and will then place the patient in a virtual queue so that they can put the phone down. And then when they would have reached the front of the queue, the system will automatically call the patient back and connect the call to the receptionist. There's also no capacity limit on outbound calls on this system, so if you need to make an outbound call, even when it's busy with inbound calls from patients, you'll always be able to do that. Through the user console that you can have open on your screen, you'll be able to see who's logged into the system and whether they're available for a call. So if you're transferring calls around the practice, that's a really useful screen. You'll be able to see whether a user is logged in and whether they're already on the phone or whether they've marked themselves as away from the desk before you go to transfer the call. You'll also be able to see all the calls that you deal with through the practice and some efficiency statistics for the day as well. If you're not interested in those though, they can be removed from your user console screen. All the calls on Surgery Connect are recorded, so both inbound and outbound calls are recorded as a default, regardless of the device that's used. So this system is clever enough to send your calls to different phones depending on how you're working, and it doesn't matter where the call ends up, so long as it's gone through Surgery Connect, it will be recorded for you. You can also switch from audio to video during a call. So something particularly useful if you're doing phone consultations with patients, which means that if they say they have a rash, you can then convert that call to a video call during the call. You send out an automated text from the system. So long as the patient's on their mobile phone and you're using our on-screen soft phone, you'll be able to send that text out and the patient can just click on the link as there's no extra apps for them to download. Once they've said yes to using the camera on their smartphone and yes to the video call, the audio call will automatically end on your screen and then the video call will be ringing from the patient for you. You can also work remotely more easily using Surgery Connect, so it doesn't really matter whereabouts you sit within the practice, whichever phone you log into will become your extension number, and that's then where all your calls will go through to. You can also access Surgery Connect anywhere where you can access the internet, though. So you can log in via a website and access the phone system as though you were in the practice, still using your internal short dials to transfer calls around, and patients don't know any difference at all. The main thing to think about on Surgery Connect is actually users rather than phones. So if your surgery has phones installed, they won't have their own extension numbers. It will rely on a user logging into the phone to give it their short dial number. So each user on Surgery Connect will have their own internal short dial. So that will be an extension number that's specific for you and will follow you around no matter where you log in to Surgery Connect. We can also make numbers direct dial. So if you've got people that need to contact you directly, they can do. And again, those numbers will follow you around no matter where you log in. There'll also be groups set up on the system, and those groups have their own internal short dial number. So if you would rather use the group number rather than the individual, that will then go through to whoever's next available in that team to take that call. And that's normally how your patient calls will be distributed as well. So they'll ring the main practice number, they'll go through a call flow that will be set up before you go live, and that will give the patient some information and may also ask them to choose what sort of thing it is that they're calling about. So typically that would be things like appointments, prescription queries, or test results. Once the patient's queued for the relevant team that answers those queries, as the call reaches the front of the queue, it will look around the group, see who's logged in and who's been waiting for a call the longest, and it will ring that person's phone first. It rings your phone for about 30 seconds, and if you don't answer, it will then move on to the next person within the team to answer that call. So it will ring round everybody within a group, but it's going to do it one person at a time. Now, if you're available when that call comes in and you answer the call, the first thing you'll hear on Surgery Connect is a voice from the system that we call a whisper that tells you what this call should be about. So if it's a patient callback call that you're answering, it's going to say contacting caller as the call's presented. If it's a call to your internal short dial or a direct dial number that you have, it will say direct call as you answer the phone. And if it's a call through one of the groups, it will tell you the name of the group. So it may say appointments call or prescription queries call or test results call, depending on which groups you have set up and which groups you're a member of to answer those calls through. Once you've had the whisper, that's when you can then speak and the caller can then hear you. And it doesn't matter where those calls are answered. So if you are in the practice and using one of the desk phones, then you can log into the phone and all of your calls will then go through that phone that you're logged into. Alternatively, you could use the on-screen soft phone, and that would then mean that you can receive your calls directly through the PC or laptop that you're logged into. You can also use a USB headset plugged into the PC or laptop for all of the call audio using the soft phone application.